Some of you are about to get mad because everybody has their own thoughts and opinions on this, but we wanted to know what grit sandpaper should you really be buying and stocking at your shop. So we put together a real grit roadmap for every grit you need, and this will separate the beginners from the professionals. There's way too many options out there in Sandpaper Land, so we came up with this realistic list to show you every grit that you need and the ones you don't. If you follow this simple plan, it will save you time and money. There's two groups of you guys out there. There's guys doing collision and guys doing overall paint jobs, so we're gonna separate them. We're talking to the collision guys only right now. When you're doing your body work, when you're doing your mud work, you only need 3 grits. That's 80 grit, 150 grit, and 240 grit. And I'm gonna buy those in a DA paper and the longboard paper, and I don't need any other grit. Most collision shops that are using a 2K urethane are priming over a 240 grit, or they should be. If you're using UV or water, you may be a little bit higher. Maybe you're using like a 400 grit. But once you're in primer, you really only need 4 grits. What 4 grits do you need? Once I'm in primer, I'm gonna guide coat it and I'm gonna block it out with a 240. After that, I'm gonna guide coat it and I'm gonna refine those 240 grit scratches with a 400 grit. Now I can paint over 400, but it depends. Am I sealing it? Is it a solid color? Is it a non-solid color? Some people choose to go up to a 600 after that, depending on the color and the system that they're using. If you're blending a panel and you're applying clear coat over, I need an 800. So those are the 4 grits that you need for pre-paint. 240, 4, 6, and 8, that's it. So after I make paint, I have 3 more grits and I'm home free. All I need to do, assuming I don't have any runs, and if you do have runs, we have this video right here that'll show you everything you need to know about the art of removing runs. But let's say that it comes out of the gun clean. All I need to do is to come in with like a Fez tool, knock out the dirt nibs, hit it with 1,000 grit, then 1,500, then 3,000, and I can move to buffing. I don't need anything higher than that. I'm done. Before we get to the restoration guys and the overall paint jobs, I want to add a couple other things that are technically not sandpaper, but they should go hand in hand. Everybody should have at least the gray and red Scotch-Brites. And depending on the manufacturer, these are approximately 600 grit, and these are like a 320, 400 grit. And they can vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. Another thing that I like, and I don't care if it's Norton or 3M, I like these soft touches. They come in a variety of different grits and they work really well. So these may need to be worked into your system as time and money progresses. You might need some 320, but that wasn't on the original list. I know. This modern E-coat, depending on what you're working on, sometimes it eats up too much 400. So I actually prefer a 320, get it about 50% done, and then I hit it with the 400. So you could argue that 320 is a needed grit depending on what you're doing. Let's talk about 220 versus 240. 240 is by far the most popular grit out there. I don't use it. I don't really like it. Why? Everything that 240 can do, 220 can do. It's the same pricer and it's faster. Me personally, I remove 240 and replace it with 220, but that's just me. Restoration and overall paint jobs is a completely different animal than collision. We're using different grits of sandpaper and we're using different products. I definitely still need that 80 and 150. And in most cases, I'm gonna primer over an 80 or a 150 job, depending on how many times I'm gonna primer it. I do want 80 grit and 150 in longboard and DA, but here's the difference. I might need to add a rougher grit. What are you talking about? 24, 36, or 40, and I don't necessarily need all 3. If you're working on very old cars, you may be able to get away with a 24 grit to rough your mud. If you're working on a little bit more modern cars, you definitely don't want to use a rough grit. 40 grit is probably the roughest grit you want to use on a non-aluminum car that was made from 1980 up, especially if you're roughing mud or you're stripping cars. But 80 is not enough in most cases. Once I get all my rust off and my car stripped and all my fab work done, I'm gonna go to primer. And most people are applying an epoxy primer first over an 80 grit or a 150. Once that cures and dries, they're putting their body fillers over that and going 80 and 150, a lot like Collision. When they put their high build primer, it shouldn't be a 2K urethane, UV, or a water. It should be a polyester or the Duratec vinyl ester or a high build epoxy. That stuff is awesome, but it sucks to sand. You do not want to cut that with a 240 like the Collision guys do. So what do? Block it out with something more aggressive. How aggressive? Enter 100 grit. You can use 80, but I like 100 grit. Other guys like 150 or 180, that's for chickens. Your initial block needs to be 100 grit, then you can guide coat it 150 grit. If it needs to be overall primed, you can, or spot primed, you can do it there, but I would absolutely start with a 100 grit for these heavy build primers. Once I'm in final primer, what I want to do is guide coat it, block it all out with a 100 grit, guide coat it again, block it out with a 150 grit, guide coat it again. I use a 220, I guess you could use a 240. I'm blocking it out by hand. No air tools, no machines, nothing. After that, I'm gonna wet sand it. You could dry sand it with a 400 grit. Now here's the thing, just like the Collision guys, in most cases, if it's a single stage, I can seal it and paint it over 400, I'm good. If it's a base coat, clear coat, and I'm sealing it and it's a solid color, I can seal it and base it over 400, it's good. If it's a metallic candy or a pearl, I may wanna wet sand it with 600. Then I can do my sealer, my base. I like to denim my base, but then I can clear it. So that's all the grits that I need for restoration before the paint job. Now we're in clear coat, and there's two very different paths we could go. A lot of guys are only putting 2-3 coats of clear on their overall paint jobs. If you only have that kind of millage, you definitely want to go 1,000, 15, 3, and buff it. Kind of like the Collision guys do. I think that's a wrong choice, but there's a lot of people doing it that way. What are the big boys doing? And in my opinion, what's the only way to do it? You need to put 4 or 5 coats of clear on this if it's truly a show car. If you've got that much product on there, we can start with 600 grit. Yeah, you heard that correct. We're blocking it, longboarding it out with 600 grit. After it's perfect, no peel, no texture, no spray waves, we're blowing it off, we're cleaning it with the wax and grease remover, and we're guide coating it with the powder really, really well. And we're repeating that process with 1,000. You heard that correctly. We're skipping 800 grit. We're gonna use the 1,000 grit to get all those 600 grit scratches out. Once the 1,000 is perfect, we're gonna do the same thing. Blow it off, wax and grease it, get it clean, get it guide coated, and we're gonna repeat that process with 1,500 grit wet. When that's done, I'm done with guide coat, and I can do my 3,000, 5,000, 8,000, but I'm not using a machine. You can, it's faster, but if we're talking about the best way, I'm doing it all by hand. I'm going through those 3 steps before I buff it. If you want to learn the different ways to buff a car, be it collision or restoration, check out this video right here. It will show you the art of wet sanding and wheeling. Are you gonna click the video? What's going on? What's taking so long? Are you gonna click it or what? I got a couple dishonorable mentions, grits that like your grandpappy used to use, and for some reason they're still floating around the industry. I personally don't see the value of a 120 or 180 unless you're trying to be a super shop and you're wanting to have every grit, which I like, but the average person does not need a 120 or 180. Here's a couple other grits. The 1,200, 2,000, 2,500 guys. Jump on the bandwagon of the 3,000, 5,000, and 8,000, and you'll throw these grits away. There's a ton of different manufacturers out there, and everyone's got their own opinion, but just know this, there's different grades inside of those manufacturers too. So make sure that you find the manufacturer and the grade that work best for you and the car that you're working on. If you need some help, our Amazon store has some different grits and some different sandpapers. We don't have everything on there, but it might help you with your journey, so check out our Amazon store. Hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully you learned a lot. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. We want to continue to make videos that are helpful for you in our industry. From David and I at Refinished Media, until the next time.